Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jake Salvi.
And I'm Cole Belak.
And before we get into the Siena sports, you may have noticed that is not Christian Hicks. Fortunately, he has been promoted to control room, and Cole will be replacing him permanently. Now, Cole, for your first episode, you want to get us started?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So starting off with baseball, they started the series last Friday with a win against Fairfield after 11 innings. Gavin Thorburn gave Siena an early lead, making it home after Jake Sparks hit a single out to right center. Fairfield tied it in the 8th to send the game into extra innings, where Siena would score 3 runs in the 11th, courtesy of Jake Sparks, Noah Brooks, and Jeremy Sangalang, taking the game 4-2.
But for the next 2 games of the series, Siena could not keep the momentum. The 4-time defending regular season champs Fairfield went into the bottom of the 5th down 2-1 and went into the 6th up 6-2. Then in the bottom of the 6th, they stamped a 7th run on the board and would see the game out like that. The Saints headed into the final game of the series looking to clinch a win, but it did not go their way at all. The Saints fell 10-0 and the game ended in the 8th via mercy rule.
Now switching gears to softball, who traveled out to New Britain, Connecticut for a doubleheader against Central Connecticut State. The Saints started out hot in the first game with an emphatic 9-0 win across 9 innings. All 9 runs came in the first 3 innings, leaving the last 2 scoreless. It was also a great game for pitcher Alyssa Emont, who struck out 8 batters of the 21 she faced. And Jake, that second game didn't exactly go how the first did.
No, it did not. Siena started off well with a run in the 1st by Gracie Goway and a run in the 4th by Emma Peterson. And going into the bottom of the 4th, that's where the game flipped. CCSU ran a single run to start the 5th, following right after with a 2-run home run, and then ran 2 more runs off a double. CCSU left that inning with a lead of 5-2 and left the game with that lead as well. And on Saturday, the Saints had another doubleheader against Colgate. Chloe Cummings started the Saints off strong, touching home in first after a wild pitch. And the runs kept coming after that with a run in the 2nd and 4th before a dominant 5th inning. The Saints would bring home 4 in the 5th to make it 7-0 and see the game out. The 5th is also where junior Emma Peterson recorded her 100th hit of her collegiate career.
Now, it's obviously a great achievement for her, and they took that momentum and rode into the second game with it. The second game was a slow burner, but definitely worth the watch. The first 4 innings, both teams struggled to grab a one and entered the 5th knotted at 0. However, the Saints pulled another dominant 5th inning, scoring all of their 6 runs. And freshman Callie DeLauder nailed a 3-run homer to close out those 6 runs, which is the first of her collegiate career. The top of the 6th saw Colgate try to mount a comeback, but only ended up bringing 2 home. And with the shutout in the top of the 7th, the Saints send the Raiders home with 2 losses. Now switching over to basketball, the women's team played their first postseason game in 10 years at the Women's National Invitation Tournament. The game against Howard University was slow to start off, with both teams struggling from deep. Siena did go into the half with a 36-30 lead thanks to their efficiency on the fast break. Coming out of the half, the Bison defense was relentless, holding Siena to 1 for 6 from the floor. The Bisons eventually tied and then took the lead thanks to 2 big threes from Kaya Creek. The Saints did put up a fight in the 4th, with Sapala and Jackson combining for all the 11 points put up, but the Bison were able to hold out, sending Siena home in the first round. This was also the final game for Anisha Jackson, who put up 17 points, and Anaja Brown, who put up 12 points.
And while we're on the topic of collegiate basketball, let's look over at the national scale. And there are no perfect brackets remaining left in March Madness because it has been insane. Entering the Sweet 16, the lowest seed is a 10, and all the number 1 seed are still going strong. Now, I know last week me and Christian talked about our predictions. My Florida-Duke final is still on, but Cole, what's your bracket looking like?
Personally, I'm riding with you. I got a Florida-Duke final, but go Gators.
And that's all we have today for us on the rundown.
Up next, our own Matt Coloma sits down with Siena Swim and Dive Rookie of the Year.
Thanks, Jake and Cole. After ending their season recently, Siena Women's Swim and Dive has just unveiled their yearly award winners. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by one of those recipients, the team's Rookie of the Year, freshman Claire Donlon. Claire, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I want to start off. Let's talk about that new piece of hardware that I'm guessing is in your room here on campus, the Rookie of the Award. What does it mean to take home that award?
It's a huge honor to have that award. There's a lot of talented freshmen on the team, and it's such a privilege to be on Siena Swim and Dive to begin with, but being named Rookie of the Year is truly such an honor.
That's awesome. And you're a freshman student athlete, right? So adjusting to college alone is difficult, right?
Yes.
So
yes,
being a student athlete, you have to train. There's practices. There's travel.
Yeah.
So take me through your adjustment. Was there an adjustment period there, or do you think that I'm assuming you dove in high school. Right?
Yes.
So do you think you're already kind of pre-adjusted to being a student athlete and what comes with that?
Yeah, being a student athlete in high school definitely helped, but it was a big jump from high school to college. When I came here, I didn't know anybody but my roommate who I had met on my recruiting trip, who's also a swimmer on the team. So it was good to have someone to really lean on because we were both adjusting at the same time. But honestly, the support of my coaches and my teammates really helped me adjust pretty well.
That's awesome. And you talk about that support from your coaches and teammates. Just kind of what kind of culture does the swim and dive team have? Are you guys close, like outside of your meets and
Yes.
stuff? Or
Yes. The sisterhood that comes with Siena Swim and Dive is something that I cherish so much. Truly, that team is like family, and the energy on the deck during every practice, every meet is something I've never experienced before, and I can't imagine being anywhere else.
Yeah, it's good to have people around you that are like-minded and have a common goal.
Yes.
And so, why Siena? Was that a part of it? Did you know the program coming in? Did you meet with some of the team coming in and the coaches? I know on like a recruiting trip, that's part of it. But what geared your attention towards Siena? Was it mostly the athletics, or did the academics have anything to do with it? The campus? Just take me through your decision.
Yeah, honestly, that played a big part in it. I came here and it just immediately felt like home. I had a couple other recruiting trips set up after, and I immediately committed to Siena after coming here. So I immediately knew, based on the team culture and just the support that surrounds Siena, that this would be the place for me.
Awesome. And yeah, we talk about Siena having that kind of community, and it's cool to see that transfer into like the teams here. And tell me a little bit just about like being a student athlete on campus. I know we talked about the adjustment period, but like on campus, do you feel like you're like a representative of the school? Do you think that having that badge, wearing that swim and dive jacket, do you think wearing that alone makes you like a representative of the school? And do you feel like you have to carry yourself differently here?
Yeah, I would say I definitely carry myself differently as a student athlete. Yeah, like I said, it's a huge privilege to be a student athlete here at Siena, and just having that support means everything to me. And I guess representing Siena through my athletics is something that I take very seriously, and I think every athlete should.
Awesome. I see that you have like it's called Claire's Visuals, right?
Yes.
You have what got you into that? You are like a videographer and a photographer. Is that an internship? Is that just something you do purely out of passion? What goes into that?
Yeah, so honestly, I've always had a passion for sports. I'm a sports communications major, and after coming to Siena and sort of learning my way around that, I bought a camera, and I just immediately fell in love with recording and doing photography for sports. I work for the baseball team as a social media intern, and it's just been great. The guys are awesome, and the coaches are great, and just the amount of support I've received has really boosted my confidence in my academics as well as my athletics. So having that recognition is huge to me, and I'm very grateful for that.
And it's definitely really cool that it looks like you might have a career path that follows what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And your connection to athletics obviously can give you a leg up in that industry. So Claire, thank you so much for being here. Maggie, take it away.
Hi everyone, and welcome back. The boys, Joe Lemery and Stephen Jones, I'm Maggie Miller. We got a lot to cover today. So, big news coming in from the NFL last night. Russell Wilson is a New York football giant, and Stephon Diggs goes to the Patriots. Now, Steve, as not only a Giants fan and football fan in general, how are you feeling about these decisions?
I tell you guys what, this was not a move I was expecting, right? I was more expecting Aaron Rodgers to the Giants, or I was expecting maybe a Cam Ward, right? I wasn't expecting Jameis, like we found out over the weekend and whatnot. Wasn't expecting Russ either. So it's a pretty interesting move, to be honest. I like the ideas that are going on in Joe Shane's head right now, and I like the way he's probably bouncing them off of Brian Daboll and saying, hey, what would we do with this, and that? And like I talked about in the last show, this puts pressure on the Giants to now give Russ a really good offensive line and also continue to further develop Malik Neighbors. And for the sake of the Giants receiver corps, I'm happy with the guys on a moral level and personal level that they actually have a quarterback that will develop them correctly too, that they can work with.
Yeah, I think for the Giants, I talked about this last week, whether it was Rodgers or whether it's Russell Wilson, it can't get much worse, right? They've had a pretty terrible quarterback room, losing Daniel Jones, and then the rest of the season kind of just up for disaster. I think Brian Dable is a good coach in this league, and I think Russell Wilson is a proven quarterback. I don't know necessarily if he's going to be that one to necessarily make them a winning record team, but again, I don't think you can get much worse, and I think Russell Wilson brings that experience, brings that Super Bowl pedigree, whether it was Rodgers or Wilson, and it's going to help Jameis Wilson. Jameis Winston is a solid backup in this league, arguably one of the best. So I think the quarterback room is significantly improved. Talked about Malik Neighbors. He's got an opportunity to get better with that veteran experience. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And with Stephon Diggs to the Patriots, I like the move. I don't know if Stephon Diggs was really that right piece down in Houston. Obviously, had a little bit of injuries, was kind of a down year for him. In his years in Buffalo, just we know how capable Stephon Diggs really is. So I'm excited to see on a young Patriots team, quarterback on the rise, like Drake May's got a weapon now. And this is somebody, is he going to be able to come back to his glory days in Buffalo, or is he kind of on the decline now? We'll have to see.
All right, so let's get right into the madness from this weekend. There were exciting first-round games that we all saw. So number 12 seed McNeese State upset number 5 Clemson, and another number 12 Colorado State upset number 5 Memphis. And in the second round, one of the most exciting games belonged to St. John's and Arkansas, as well as Colorado State and Maryland. Now, boys, before we touch on those games, let's start off with one of the biggest games of the weekend, UConn and Florida. Joe, want to start?
Yeah, so I think this is Florida's game to lose, and they almost did, I think UConn gave them everything they had and some, and it still wasn't enough. I think Florida didn't even play their best basketball yet, and they still gave UConn such a tough challenge. I think, all right, let's give credit to Dan Hurley. His Huskies always come prepared and ready. We knew they were going to be a tough out in this tournament. I don't think many of us expected them to three-peat, although that was their goal. This UConn team, let's face it, drastically different than the team last year and their first championship team of this potential three-peat. So we know we didn't expect the same look. I expect they'll come back next year. I expect they'll be better. They're also going to look a lot different again. We've heard Dan Hurley say some of his players want out into the transfer portal. So we'll see what happens with all that. But really, this win is all about Florida and their big three. Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, and Will Richard. I mean, these guys, the pressure that they had to have going up against UConn, the reigning back-to-back champs, and they still find a way to pull it out, is huge. I mean, let's start with Walter Clayton, an absolute star. Walter Clayton Jr. is an absolute star in the making. Played under Rick Pitino at Iona for 2 seasons, progressed significantly in his sophomore campaign, and this is a dude who the past 2 seasons at Florida has averaged consistently 17-plus points per game. And he's one of the best guards in the country. You have to admit that. The way he played, that performance he had against UConn, 23 points, 6 of 14 shooting, 5 of 8 from behind the arc. I mean, the numbers just speak for himself, and he's making big-time shots when it matters most. I'm super impressed with the Florida Gators. I think they can make a deep run, and it's really because of this kid, Walter Clayton Jr.
I agree, Joe. Now, we all remember, Walter Clayton Jr., when he spent his time in the MAC, Iona was good, and they had a great supporting team, but I don't remember his three-point shot being as good as it is now. So certainly three-point efficiency was something he worked on, and it is more than, it is safe to say that it is at a SEC level of play. He is shooting as if he is the star point guard for a top-5 team in college basketball. 5 for 8 from downtown in a comeback win versus the reigning champs. That is impressive. Now, I want to talk about Liam McNeely, too. 22 points, 8 for 8 from the charity stripe, the free throw line.
Freshman.
Exactly, the rookie from UConn. I know there's been some talk about players wanting to hit the portal and whatnot, right? There's only so many members left of the 2 championship teams, and you can say that about each squad and whatnot for UConn. And, of course, there was the incident this weekend, which I definitely think could have been handled better by both the UConn Director of Communications, but also Dan Hurley as well, too. But I think Dan Hurley needs to address some personal things, especially not spend the offseason too much in the hot waters of, is he going to the Lakers? Is he going to stay with UConn, right? I think for Dan Hurley, he needs to either stay put or maybe consider a more private lifestyle, because that also carried out throughout the year. We saw him get upset about playing in one of the highest honor tournaments, right? Maui Invitational. It's one of the best invites you can get as a college hoops team, right? He said, we're not doing another preseason tournament after that embarrassing tournament where it was just consistently him in the headlines, upset at press conferences, excuse me, and just fiery during games. and getting this close, getting thrown out each game too. During a tournament where it's like, really? Do you really want to be like that during the year? So I think there are some, internal points from UConn to focus on, but also recruiting-wise too, as well.
All right, do you guys want to move on to McNeese and Clemson?
Yeah, let's do it.
What a game.
Yeah.
What a game. I want to start off by saying I think it was also Will Wade. I get in the day of NIL nowadays, it's like one thing leaks, one guy's here, one guy's there, you can transfer. But just the fact that it got out that he's going to NC State was a little unfortunate for me. I picked Clemson because I figured, oh man, this McNeese State team is either going to be, get ready to hit the portal or go and follow him to NC State. They're not going to play as a unit. They played as a unit, and they got ready for their future opponents in Clemson for some of those guys. 69-67, late second half defense cost them, and then obviously it showed Saturday versus Purdue. But come on now, the McNeese bench, 35 points off the bench from everybody in total. 3 for 8 from 3-2 was very impressive for the bench.
Yeah, this is probably, with McNeese, the most Cinderella-esque team in this tournament, if we had one. Really, there was not much Cinderella stories this year. But Clemson has really been notorious for playing poorly in the NCAA tournament. I mean, they had that one good year a couple years back.
Joe Girard.
But really, you got to give credit to McNeese here. They were simply the better team. You mentioned the bench, and probably manager Amir Khan got more light than this entire team did. I mean, let's just be real. And he's going to follow Will Wade to NC State, but he was fun taking over the internet and all that. But my point is, this was so much more about Clemson losing rather than McNeese winning. I mean, in about 10 days, none of us are going to care about McNeese at all. So that's just it. The storyline was Khan getting his 15 seconds of fame, and then he's going to go to NC State, and simply Clemson has choked in countless NCAA tournaments.
Yeah, but how do you guys feel about Colorado State and Memphis?
I think Colorado State, that was a big win over Memphis. Now, Memphis was a good 5 seed in this tournament, like a really good 5 seed. And I think this was just a true testament to that 5-12 upset. It's kind of been one of those upsets that can go either way in the tournament, and 12 seeds typically have the upper hand. So I think Colorado State played really well, and it kind of translated well into Maryland.
I personally think that Coach Nico Medved of Colorado State, now with the Minnesota Golden Gophers, I personally think his game plan and his coaching was easily top 3 out of any coach in this tournament. I think it was Calipari, Kevin Willard, and Nico Medved with the top 3 coaches to come out of this weekend. You could say Todd Golden with the Florida Gators. Someone argued Dan Hurley, yada, yada, yada. But I personally think those 3 took the cake personally for me.
Yeah. And what about that St. John's game?
What a game. What a game.
Sorry, there's just so many games to recap on.
I mean, Arkansas was 19 for 27 from the charity stripe. That certainly helped, right? 9-point margin, and then you just run away with the free throws, make St. John's foul. But I think the big storyline to come out of this, R.J. Lewis nowhere to be found. 9 points, 7 rebounds, 3 for 17 from the field, and 0 for 3 from downtown. I'm a little disappointed that he didn't, decide, let's get that confidence up, keep shooting from 3. But he just couldn't get anything to go down. 3 for 17. It's abysmal in the tournament, Joe.
It blows my mind because if R.J. Lewis actually played remotely well, maybe like 15 points, you're talking.
Game goes to OT.
You're talking probably a St. John's win. But look, Patino, first round, goes up. Actually, Calipari, goes up against Bill Self, wins that one. Then he's going up against Patino. 2 Hall of Fame coaches, and he's taking care of business so far. Year 1 in Arkansas, where this is a team, I don't think many people expected them to be a Sweet 16 team, and they've done so. I really like this Arkansas team right now, and Calipari has guys that are coming off the bench and producing big-time minutes and scoring. I mean, and they did that against number 2 St. John's. Rick Pitino knows how to coach, and credit to both of these guys because I think St. John's and Arkansas are going to be 2 teams very much in the mix for many years to come. I think the experience that Coach Cal has makes them the most dangerous team left in this tournament. I would not want to be going up against Arkansas right now.
Oh.
They are not a 10 seed. You get that right out of your head. They are not a 10 seed. They might not have as much experience. It's a little new for Arkansas, but Calipari does. Coach Cal knows what's up. And for St. John's, right? Incredible season they had, finishing 31-5. I think the expectations that St. John's had this year were just blown right out of proportion. Patino did everything he possibly could and some for a year 2, and I'm not sure what necessarily happened to R.J. Lewis in that one. Obviously, they lost, and he was nowhere to be found, and you mentioned that. But I think St. John's is going to be a powerhouse now. Come next year, come the next few years, under Patino, they've established themselves as one of the best teams in the entire NCAAs. So now I think Patino has got a great thing for going for him. He should stick around here at St. John's. This is a team, Big East. They're a big conference for a reason, and they've been growing back up to that the fear the Big East mentality. So I expect St. John's to be back and better than ever next year.
I love it. You got Greg McDermott, Rick Pitino, Dan Hurley, Shaka Smart, just bringing the Big East to a Power 5 conference that it needs to be.
All right, so one of the biggest stories from the NCAA women's hoops is the USC and Mississippi State game that happened Monday night. So about 5 minutes into the game, the Trojan sophomore guard Juju Watkins tore her ACL and will be out for the rest of the season. So, Steve, have you seen her injury yet, and what do you think will come of her college career?
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough to watch. Juju Watkins, 23.9 points per game this season, 6.8 rebounds per game. Just a phenomenal all-around athlete, and I still believe is the face of women's college hoops currently. I know that is shared as well with Paige Beckers at UConn, but what those two have done to carry on the torch and the legacy that has revitalized women's hoops, college hoops especially, in the last few years has been outstanding. And Juju Watkins, I mean, what can you do except wish the best for her, a speedy recovery. I definitely think she is a needed presence in the game of basketball, especially women's college basketball too.
You know, as someone who works so closely in the basketball industry right now, I mean, I'm so saddened for her. I think I was highly anticipating USC to make a deep run in this tournament and go up against a team like South Carolina, UConn, like the Beckers, Juju Watkins matchup would have been huge. And now I don't think that's going to be the case. Obviously, that team goes as far as Juju Watkins goes, as far as I'm concerned. Personally, knowing people I've worked with and am close with that have experienced this, it sucks. It's a gut-punching injury, and it's no joke. It's emotional. I get emotional seeing this stuff happen to people that you care about, people you love, and someone who's worked so hard to get to where they are. I mean, not everyone is lucky enough, and let's just face it, not everyone is lucky enough to come back from these injuries. These are hard. We've seen Derrick Rose in the NBA, never the same player again after these ACLs. So some people get the luck back, some people don't. And I believe that because Juju Watkins is so box office, because she is that caliber player, she'll be back and be better than ever. I know that the medicine we have these days is a lot better, and she might very well miss next season as well. And that's something that, now you talk about red shirts, that's consideration now. So we'll have to follow and see if she has a full recovery, but I think this player can carry that like Caitlin Clark type effect throughout her whole career and into the W. And she's gonna do that. Let's be real. I think we've seen like AZ Food come back, Paige Beckers. So we know it's been done. So I think it can be done. Obviously, the sights were emotional last night, but praying for her. Can't wait to see her back.
Yes. So let's shift gears to some regional hockey updates. The Devils hosted the Vancouver Canucks Monday night. This game, which is also known as the Hughes Bowl, saw Demko coming back from injury with 22 saves on the night. The Canucks went on to beat the Devils in a shootout 4-3. Moving on, the Islanders hosted the Blue Jackets on Monday night as well. A horrible call from a ref, people are calling an NFL ref, calls a shootout loss for the Islanders 4-3. And lastly, the Rangers are on a West Coast road trip. After beating the Canucks 5-3 on Saturday, they look to keep the spark alive. Now, how are you boys feeling about the New York/New Jersey hockey right now, minus the Sabres? So, start us off. Sorry, we're not talking about the Sabres.
Well, all right, let's just call it how it is for New York hockey. Both these teams are average this year. They really are.
Shockingly at that.
Average. It's like both their records, Islanders and Rangers, very close to 500, right? And neither of those teams look remotely close to what the Capitals are. I mean, the Capitals are just ridiculous this year. Like 15 losses right now.
Yep.
Like just unbelievable. I think, look, both these teams have proved and can prove to us that they can win on any given night. We know that. They can beat any team any night when they want to. But when the playoffs roll around, that's a big if they can even make the playoffs, they're getting bounced in the first round. There's no question. I've seen enough this far. I think New York hockey ripped the page this year. Looking to next.
I definitely think it'll take, especially for the Rangers, some veteran leadership, right? We always see Mika Zibanejad ignite this time of year, especially in April, and then that carries over into the playoffs, right? They've always come close. They've had their opponents. They've been knocked out by the Lightning, the Penguins, the Capitals, the Devils in the last 15 years, just to name a few teams. However, they're in a full-on claw and scrap fight versus the Islanders, the Bruins, the Blue Jackets, the Senators, the Canadiens, especially the Islanders and the Canadiens, just to sneak into the playoffs right now. They're one game back of the Canadiens, and they are currently tied with the Islanders. Islanders at home, having some regional hockey play. Rangers, as you alluded to, Maggie, out west, a little bit of a tough trip. We'll have to see how they do.
I mean, my Devils right now, I mean, the beginning of the season, they were doing wonderful. And I was like, oh, maybe we'll get a playoff. But I don't know about right now. It's just not been very pretty. I feel like I'm just seeing on ESPN, loss. I'm like, all right, you win some, you lose some, I guess. But so lastly, opening day is just one day away. So why don't we go through each game on opening day and give our predictions on each win and which pitcher has the advantage. So let's start off with the Yankees and Brewers. Steve, do you want to start us off?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic pitching matchup. Just a fantastic matchup overall, right? You have a young Brewers team going against a Yankees team that had to pivot a little bit, both in the pitching department and offensively, right? They went out and got Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt, and they got Max Fried, too, to replace some of the names that we know are gone, injury-wise. Garrett Cole, Tommy John for the season. Luis Seal back for possibly
Schmidt.
All-Star break. Yep. Clark Schmidt as well, too. But also, you have the Juan Soto going across town. I imagine it's still a sore subject.
Yes, it
but,
is.
like I said, you replace them with foes that have done damage against you in the past. Now replace them. But the Brewers are a young team, young, eager team, most likely to run away with the NL Central. Veteran Christian Yelich as well, too. Had some bullpen turnover. Devin Williams, right, in the Yankees pen now.
Williams.
Freddie Peralta versus Carlos Rodon. I think that's a great first pitching matchup to start off the day for Major League Baseball for 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am really interested and excited to see Max Fried and pitch. I think that's going to be definitely telling to see how that goes. Look, I think the Yankees got something to prove, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Like losing Soto, I don't think we realized how big of a deal that was. Like you just were in the World Series, World Series. You were the top two teams in the entire MLB. And Soto leaves and he goes to the other teams in the Big Apple? Like, are you kidding me? I mean, if I'm the Yankees right now, if I'm Aaron Boone, I'm Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, I am so fiercely hungry right now and nothing is getting in my way. I don't care how good our pitching is. I'm going for it all. I think they got to play that way because they're really not the same team that they were last year. You lost Gleyber Torres as well. So
my gosh.
I think we're going to see an absolute dogfight from them. I think the Bronx Bombers are going to shine, and I think you mentioned it though. Brewers are a young team. They're going to give them some troubles, but I think the Yankees are going to come out and try and make an opening statement on opening night.
Perfect. And you can watch that game at 3:05 on ESPN for all our New York Yankee viewers. So moving on, the Orioles versus the Blue Jays at 3:07.
I think the Blue Jays have a lot to prove. They have to pay their guys. That's another story for another day. Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette, both deserve major contracts, whether it's from Toronto, although you decide to pay Anthony Santander a lot of money. So a little bit confused. Maybe deadline acquisitions. Orioles' health concerns me a little bit. Bullpen health, as well as starting rotation. What can they do? Very young rotation, very old bullpen.
Yeah, I don't like the bullpen at all for the Orioles, if I'm being quite honest. I think the Orioles have notoriously been a really horrible franchise, and they've gotten better. Last year they had a better year. I think the Blue Jays are going to win this one. I trust Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and I think he's going to come out guns blazing in this.
I'm saying the Orioles. All right, next, my least favorite team, the Boston Red Sox at the Texas Rangers. Steven, start us off.
Mr. Garrett Crochet, welcome to Boston. Mr. Walker Buehler, welcome to Boston. Those two are going to be pivotal pieces of the rotation. Give me the Sox, 4:05 start.
I think this is the Rangers all the way. I'm a Corey Seager guy, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
I have the utmost faith in him. I think this team is also this is a team that won the World Series not too long ago. I think they're still a very capable team to do that again this year. And I think the hype that you're giving the Red Sox, obviously a little bias from you, I think this hype is, as Stephen A. Smith would say, blasphemous. The Red Sox aren't doing anything this year. Give me the Rangers.
Yeah, I'm going Rangers. Sorry, I don't like the Red Sox. I gotta say, nothing I can say about that. I mean, I guess Garrett Crochet he's a good pitcher. He's a fine pitcher, but anyway, that's going to do it on the rundown. A big thank you to these two with me, Jake Salvi, Cole Bielak, Matt Paloma, and everyone behind the scenes, and all of you watching at home. I'm Maggie Miller. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everyone.